Is this shot good enough? Hope so. I'm gonna try to record this video before my battery dies. So I was trying to think of a topic for this video, and I ended up on counseling because I just did my first counseling session last week on Friday, and I really wanted to just give people out there my first impressions of it and what I expected, if it met my expectations, if I think that it's worth it. And I know it's my only my first session, so I'm gonna have a very limited amount of knowledge, but I still wanted to give you my first impressions for anybody out there that may be considering counseling. So, since I live in America, usually American schools will have free counseling for campus. I was able to get counseling free through my college campus, which is nice because I'm a poor college kid with no money. Honestly, I didn't ever think that I would be actually going to counseling ever, because of course I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me, my problems aren't that bad, but everybody has problems, and to quote my counselor, she said, the world would be a better place if everyone went to counseling, or therapy. Those are interchangeable, I guess. But I was struggling with some personal problems, with some family problems. I'm not going to go into the details about what they are, you know, for my family's sake, for my privacy's sake, but I will talk about how the process went down with counseling and what I think about it. So for the counseling at my school is a appointment-based counseling. However, they do walk-ins if it's an emergency or if you really just need to talk to somebody. And everything that happens there is all confidential. They can't share it unless you want to harm yourself or you're a danger to others. They have to share that information. But any other personal information stays in the room, doesn't leave the room, isn't told to anybody, completely confidential. And what I thought was nice is my counselor actually asked me if she saw me in public, if it would be okay if she walked over and said hi. Which I didn't do an immediate answer because I wasn't completely comfortable yet, but I thought that was a nice thing to consider. Because if you're talking about your parents and, you know, you're hiding it from your parents, and your counselor walks up and says, "Oh, hi Marissa, you know, I'm ready for our next counseling session," and then your parents are just kind of like, what? But thankfully, both my parents know about the counseling, so I don't have to worry about that. Sitting on my knees, this hurts. So, as the process went down, after I made my appointment, I went to a first session where they just basically ask you what your problems are, what you want to discuss, what you hope to get out of the counseling. Well, I was very unsuccessful with trying to do this video before my battery died. So sorry if the angles changed or I repeat some of the stuff I was saying before. Anyway, to continue, the process kind of went like this. I went to one session and they basically wanted to figure out the scope of my problems and what I wanted to talk about, and then from that information they would decide who my counselor was going to be. They would assign me to a certain counselor. You can choose your preference, at least here, if you want a male or a female counselor. And I chose female because some of my problems are female related. Surprise. So after this session, then you actually have your real sessions with your real counselor. That first session, for about the first 20 minutes, it was basically her sitting back and being quiet and just listening to me describe what I was going through, basically. And at first I was a bit uncomfortable because I didn't know if that was going to be the entire session, if she was just going to be quiet and just listen to me. Which, I mean, I guess that may work for some people, but I kind of like that interaction. So after I bawled my eyes out talking about my problems, from then on was basically kind of a back and forth. I would say something, she would respond, she would propose something, I would respond, that sort of thing. And this is different for every counselor, but some counselors like to just talk about stuff and just talk about everything, use their knowledge, use knowledge from other things that they've read or other things that they've studied. But this counselor, we did talk a bit about that, but then she also gave me a bit of homework to kind of understand more about my issues. She gave me some recommendations for some podcasts, some recommendations for books or websites that I could go to. And I thought that was nice because I can kind of read up on my own, and then next session, which is going to be this week, we can talk more about it after I've done that. So basically that's kind of how the process goes, and I can only be in this counseling for so long because the next semester will start and I'll have to reapply for the next semester, which may be a drawback for school counseling rather than private counseling or therapy or something like that. But overall, I thought I got a lot out of the first session, even though I know, and she even told me, that not all of my issues are going to be sorted out with the first session. There were instances in our session where she would say something and I would just kind of be like, that basically describes everything that I'm talking about. And it was kind of this realization that I'm not the only one with these problems, and there are a lot of people out there who have to deal with this on a daily basis, like I do, which is comforting. Comforting to know that I'm not alone with my problems, and hopefully I can get into some group sessions, some group counseling, where everyone there, their problems are related to mine, and I can get a new perspective on how they deal with it, how I will deal with it, and it'll be nice to compare stories. So what inspired me to go to counseling was actually a video done by the YouTubers Tessa Violet and Doddlevloggle, or Jodie Clark. I'll link the video that I saw below, but they basically talked about how important counseling is and how it shouldn't be seen as a negative at all, because there are things that people just can't talk about with their family or their friends, and they need that kind of extra person to discuss their issues with, get a new perspective, so the responses aren't biased in any way. And that's basically what I was searching for, and I just needed that extra person to see this situation from another point of view, see it from the outside in rather than the inside out. And I didn't really want to burden all of my friends, especially because they're really new, since I am now at a new campus, I'm making new friends. Since we don't have that background, that trust, it's hard to talk about really deep things with them. So it was nice to have this person outside of my friend group that would be there for me and I know that I could trust. Because, I mean, it's their job. They hear problems all the time and they're there for everybody, and that's what they signed up to do. Well, that's gonna be all for the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you feel that you need counseling, and I feel everybody needs a little counseling, it's never a bad thing. Just try it, explore it. You will find out more about yourself and more about your situation. And even if the first counselor that you go to or therapist isn't your cup of tea, there are plenty others out there and they all have their own techniques. So don't be afraid to keep continuing just because you had a bad first time. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hope to see more videos. I will see you next week. Bye!